Good morning, everyone. Such a beautiful spring morning for a graduation. I'm glad everyone made it here. Also, I think it's given an extraordinary front row we have this morning. I should say happy pre-Mother's Day to any mothers that are in the room. It's great to see so many Wharton professors here this morning. Parents, partners, family, friends, and of course, above all, our incredible graduates, the Wharton Doctoral class of 2017. Good morning. I'm Geoff Garrett. I'm Dean of the school, and on behalf of the school, it's really my honor and pleasure to be here this morning. This is a lovely, intimate, very personal ceremony, and one that I know everyone in the room will cherish for a very long time. I'm not sure even if our doctoral students know, maybe the people who are here today who don't live and breathe the Wharton School wouldn't know that we actually have the largest PhD program of any business school in the world, and thanks to the quality of our students and the quality of the faculty, we also have the best PhD program in the world. That's pretty special, and I think it certainly needs to be marked and remembered and reminded all the time. When I think back to doctoral education for myself, it's a bit of a cliche, but in my case it's absolutely true. Coming to the United States to do a PhD literally changed my life. And it changed my life in ways that I, again, in a cliched sense, could never have anticipated. The things that getting a PhD in an elite American university have opened up to me, I could never have envisaged growing up as a kid in Canberra in Australia. When I think back in a more professional sense about my time as a graduate student, I really remember two things. The first one is that doctoral studies are a time when the creative juices for young scholars are flowing at an incredible level. And I think if you look at the personal archaeology of lots of wonderful academics, a lot of their best ideas actually germinated when they were doctoral students. They might not have been fully birthed and bedded down while you were a student, but the ideas that you've created here, I think, will have real longevity. Certainly in my case, and I'm not sure this is, we should tell my employer at the time, but really I surfed my PhD all the way to getting tenure and then to becoming a full professor. So I certainly appreciate the time the opportunities I got while I was in graduate school. So the first thing I wanted to say is that, we tend to think about PhD education a bit as a kind of apprenticeship. You're learning a bunch of skills, but don't underestimate the value of the ideas that you've created while you're here, because there's every chance that they're going to have very long lives. The second thing I'll always remember about doctoral studies is my advisor. I was a PhD student now a long, long time ago, but it is still the case for me that every time I have an important decision to make in my life, the first person I want to talk to is my PhD advisor. So the relationships that you develop, not only with each other, but with the faculty with whom you've worked, again, I think are lifelong ones. So those were the only two things I really wanted to say in a heartfelt sense by way of introduction. This is a ceremony that those of us who've been to before look forward to for many reasons, but one of them is that my friend and colleague Mike Gibbons, the Deputy Dean, gives us a little lecture. And so the best thing I can do now is cede the podium to Mike. Mike Gibbons.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Graduates, thank you for making us part of your journey today. As you prepare for the next steps of your odyssey, I'd like to tell you about 3 people who boldly went where no one had gone before. Like you, their stories are about determination, hard work, talent, and traveling winding roads. They could not have imagined their journey and success at the start of their careers. The first person you actually should know. You're not going to believe this, but I actually carry his photo with me wherever I go. And many of you probably own a copy of his photo as well. He's a pleasant-looking man, isn't he? But his early life was chaos. He was born in 1779 in London. He was 4 when his father died. Both his mother and sister suffered from mental illness, and combating his own depression, he began obsessively making lists as a child. In fact, his compulsive nature in list making proved to be the key to his ultimate fame. After submitting a thesis in Latin, let me say that again, a thesis in Latin. Now, many of your parents will look at your thesis and wonder whether it's in English or not. But this one was in Latin. At age 19, he graduated and began a long and successful career as a physician scientist. His work spanned physiology, neurology, chemistry, and zoological classification, which of course satisfied his need to make lists. At 26, he began to organize a book and focused on one specific list that he had been compiling over the years. But he gave up work on that to do his more traditional research. I'm going to come back to this unfinished book. He did develop a slide rule device, the log-log slide rule for calculating powers of roots and powers of numbers. And for those of you who are familiar with ancient history, you'll know that a slide rule was a mechanical computer for centuries before it was supplanted by the digital calculator. Now, if you ever complain that you need more computing power, I want you to remember that what Buzz Aldrin used in 1969 on his Apollo 11 moon mission to do the calculations when his guidance radar went down. Oh, and yes, there has been a price increase in Aldrin's slide rule since that time. But back to our auction, back to our mystery man. For years, he was an active member of the Royal Society, but in 1840, he suffered a fate dreaded by those of us approaching a certain age. He was pushed out of the society in favor of younger, more active scientists. Apparently, it happens to the best of us. In retirement, he went back to his book project that he had let go since age 26. And at age 73, he finally published his book, which has now been in print 165 years. It has sold more than 40 million copies, and more books than Gone with the Wind, or The Diary of Anne Frank, or a classic like 1984. For those of you who know about textbooks, it's sold 10 times the number of books as Paul Samuelson's Economics. So the question is, do you know who this guy is? Yep. Peter Mark Roget. He's the author of Book of Words, even coining the term to describe it, the thesaurus, which of course is Latin for treasury. Now, I brought up one of my props today, which is my iPhone. And as you can see, I carry a picture with him, of him wherever I go. And of course, you'll also notice I have 244 unread emails. I got behind last night. I was preparing for this speech. So I do have an aside on this, some personal advice. If you come up with a good idea or a good project, don't delay for 44 years. I have no idea what that noise is, but I thought it was one of my many electronic devices up here, but fortunately it is not. So I told you today was about 3 people, and here's person number 2. Athletes do not have the luxury of letting time pass. Elite athletes start young, train hard, and then pray that all pieces come together at just the right time. Jackie Joyner-Kersee was born in 1962 in East St. Louis, and she grew up in extreme poverty in a very violent neighborhood. Jackie's parents, who were very strict, allowed her to do only 2 activities: attend school and athletics. Her sport was basketball. And in her senior year, I want you to listen to this, this is amazing. In her senior year, her high school team beat their opponents by an average of 53 points per game. Now, you can imagine her family's excitement when Jackie received a basketball scholarship to UCLA, which also allowed her to participate in track and field. She had started young, she had trained hard, and now it was all coming together at UCLA until it fell apart. In her freshman year, she was called back to East St. Louis to her mother's deathbed, and her father was so overwhelmed with grief that Jackie, as a teenager, had to make the decision to remove her mother's life support system. Mr. Joyner sent Jackie back to UCLA to finish her education, and it was then that her track coach and her eventual husband convinced UCLA and Jackie to let him coach her in the heptathlon. As you know, the heptathlon has 7 events: hurdles, high jump, shot put, javelin throw, 2 running events, and of course the long jump, which was her best event. At the start, she felt all the training for the heptathlon was actually a distraction from her basketball training. Little did she know where it would all lead. Americans did not know much about the women's heptathlon until Jackie came along and stunned the world. Her career began in 1983 at the World Championship in Helsinki. She lost badly, so she intensified her training, 8 brutal hours a day. Her dream was to win the gold medal for her mother, for East St. Louis, for America, and for herself. And on August 4th, 1984, at the Los Angeles Olympics, she gave it all she had and still lost the gold. This time by 1/3 of 1 second in one event. At the 1988 Olympics in Korea, she claimed the gold medal and set a record for women which still stands today. And in 1992, she repeated the gold in Barcelona, becoming the first and only woman to win the gold in this event for 2 consecutive Olympics. In 2000, Jackie was named Sports Illustrated's World's Greatest Female Athlete in the 20th century. But of course, the award that says it all, there you go, from the box cover of Wheaties. So where do you go after that? Well, Jackie traveled back to her home in East St. Louis, where the violent crime is 35 times higher than the national average, and 50% of the children live in poverty. And her goal was to mentor those children in whom she saw something of herself, talent that needed opportunity. She oversees a $12 million center in East St. Louis dedicated to developing skills that started her journey, academics and sports. Work as if you will live to 100 years. No speech at Penn is complete unless there is some reference made to its founder, Benjamin Franklin. And that quote brings me to the third person of today's talk, which is John Goodenough, who was recently featured in the New York Times. When I saw the title of this article, "To be a Genius, Think Like a 94-Year-Old," I thought to myself, maybe my best years are ahead of me. And then my wife gave me a dope slap and we went on. Born in 1922, John was dyslexic, and that was a condition completely unknown at the time. He went to boarding school, he felt isolated, he was unable to read and manage his studies. Nevertheless, he found academic success and eventually graduating from Yale, summa cum laude in math. After a short interruption of World War II, he decided he would study science if he got a chance. Now, John had no science preparation, and coincidentally, in an act that defines what it means to be a mentor, one of his Yale professors submitted his name, unknown to John, for a science fellowship available to veterans. To this day, John is eternally grateful. After being awarded a fellowship via a surprise telegram, telegrams is what they did back then, not email, he was off to the University of Chicago to study physics. Now, as a graduate of the University of Chicago, I have to tell you, this next set of ideas rings so true to me, but here we go. When he arrived at Chicago, John was told, "Don't you know that anyone who has ever done anything significant in physics has already done it by your age? And you're just beginning." John was 23 at the time and apparently already over the hill for the Chicago, by the Chicago standards. After graduation, he accepted a job as a research scientist at MIT's Lincoln Lab, where he worked on developing random access memory for computers. Then 3 events happened that changed his life. 1, he lost his research grants and he lost his job. Now that sounds like bad news, but it turned out to be the best thing that could ever happen to him. He went on the job market at age 50, just at the right time. 2, in 1973, the oil crisis hit, which quadrupled the price of oil. 3, as a result of the oil crisis, money began pouring into battery science for use in cars, which was an area of great interest to John. So the next part's pretty good too. John received this remarkable offer from the inorganic chemistry department at Oxford. They asked him to be the chair of the department. Now what's interesting about that is in John's academic career, he had only had 2 courses in chemistry. While there, he did indeed go where no one else had gone before. He developed this little thing called the lithium-ion rechargeable battery. And at 57, he launched the mobile revolution. But that battery was always a work in progress. It had lots of problems, and John continued to work on solving those problems with primarily battery instability. And of course, awards poured in over the years for John as he continued his work. And at 94, he's a professor at UT Austin. And he's continued to work, and he has a new invention at 94. This year, he and his research team patented a technology. Now listen for this. It's a low-cost, solid-state, fast-charging, long-life, non-combustible battery. That is earth-friendly. There you go. John's career has followed an incredibly winding path, but his next steps may lead to the Nobel Prize. That may not be his goal, but it may be his destination. In every field, the road to success is paved with hard work, but from beginning to end, there are surprises along the way that will take people from inventor of the log-log slide rule to the creator of the thesaurus, from poverty to world-class athlete, from dyslexia to a revolutionary inventor. And along the way, mentorship may well play a role. From us to you, and from you to the next generation. As someone said, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Roget, Joyner-Kersee, and Goodenough could not imagine where their first step will lead. And that's my charge to you today. Take the first step. Dean Garrett, Vice Dean Shran, faculty, staff, families, and friends. Today's commencement marks the beginning for the distinguished class of 2017 who have attained, with much work and tremendous talent, the highest level of scholarship. Graduates, all the work, all the best, and may you live long and prosper. Now, my job, it's a pleasure to introduce Kathy Shran, who is the Celia Moe Professor in Accounting. Kathy received her PhD from that glorious institution, the University of Chicago, and her undergraduate degree is from the University of Michigan. For today, Kathy's most important distinction is that she is the Vice Dean of the Wharton Doctoral programs. Kathy began this role last July and has done an extraordinary job of supporting and contributing to the success of every graduate here today. Please welcome Dr. Katherine Shran.
Welcome and congratulations to everyone. This is a special day. The PhD is the highest degree that the University of Pennsylvania and the Wharton School confers on any individual. So this is really a special day. And you all have so much to be proud of. I probably don't need to tell you that, and I could stand up here and just repeat those words, but I thought instead that I would tell you some of your own words that you used when you applied here 5 or 6 or so years ago. So first, to the person who said that she wishes to pursue a career in research at the highest level and to obtain the academic grounding, research experience, and relationships to help perform valuable research, congratulations, you did it. To the person who wanted to be empowered to achieve his goal of pursuing a career in research that will benefit both academic and research institutions and practitioners, you are empowered today. To the person who said his objective is to successfully tackle very intellectually demanding problems and collaborate with like-minded academics, you have met your objective today. Congratulations. And finally, to the person who had always been motivated to earn a PhD degree because he knew that being in academia would give him the opportunity to study a subject he is generally interested in, to work with individuals with similar interests and aspirations, and to do research. As of today, you have fulfilled the dream you always had. Now, these are only a few examples, but they represent the desires that all of you had when you applied here. And today is the culmination of all of the hard work that you've done to achieve your dreams, your life's professional goals. So congratulations and best wishes for the rest of your journey. So now on to the important time of the ceremony, where we're going to begin the official conferral of degrees. So for each of our graduates, I'm going to read your name, your dissertation title, your advisor's name. The students should come up it's the left-hand side of the stage for you, my right, with your hood in your hand. The advisors are going to come up on the right-hand side of the stage, my left. And the hooding, official hooding, will happen center stage here. You should all face the front for picture purposes. And your advisor will hood you, and then your advisor will move your tassel from right to left. You'll get the official handshakes of Dean Garrett and Deputy Dean Gibbons, and get your certificate of doctoral achievement. We'll stop for another photo opportunity, and then you'll leave down the right-hand side of the stage, my left. So let's begin the official ceremony. So starting things off, we have Yuan. His dissertation is titled Informational Uniqueness, Corporate Disclosure, and Information Environment. Brian Boucher and Lutzi Hell are his advisors, but I will be hooding Jackie. Next, we have Jason Zhao. His dissertation is titled Diffusion of Corporate Governance from Influential Adopters. His advisor is Wayne Gay, but I will act as his hooder today. Okay, next we have Jin-Soo Han. His dissertation is Essays on the U.S. Electricity Sector. His advisor is Jean-Francois Houd, but Katja Syme will be hooding. There she is. Next, we have Eric Moore. His dissertation is Essays on Banking. His advisor is Santosh Anagol, and Santosh will be hooding him. Next, we have Will Wang. His dissertation is Essays in Industrial Organization and Applied Microeconomics. His advisor is Yuri Doroshelsky, and Michael Sinkinson and Katja Syme will be hooding him. Next, we have Xingtan Zhang. His dissertation is Resolving Informational Inefficiencies in Bilateral Trade. His advisor is George Maloff. Eduardo Azevedo will be hooding him.
Hey, congratulations.
Next, we have Mohammed Yasser Boulam. His dissertation is Bank Lending and Relationship Capital. His advisor is Itai Goldstein, and Itai will be hooding him. Next, we have Amora El-Saifi. His dissertation is Essays on Macro Finance and Asset Pricing. Nick Rusinoff is his advisor, and he'll be hooding him. The next student is Jessica Jeffers. Her dissertation title is Essays on Labor and Corporate Finance. Her advisor is David Musto, and David will be hooding her. Next, we have Ryan Peters. His dissertation is Essays on Corporate Investment Dynamics. Luke Taylor is his advisor. Since Luke couldn't be here today, his father, who is Professor Emeritus from Oregon State, Dr. Kurt Peters, will be hooding him.
Thank you.
Next, we have Leonid Spasistev. His dissertation is on the optimality of capital allocation in equity markets. His advisor is Bilge Yilmaz. David Musto will be hooding him. Next is Ram Yamarthi. His dissertation is Essays on Asset Pricing, Debt Valuation, and Macroeconomics. João Gomez and Amir Yaron are his advisors, and Amir Yaron will be hooding Ram. The next student is Henry Bergquist. His dissertation is titled An Examination of Medical Technology Disadoption and Its Relation to Technology Adoption and Physician Organization. Guy David is his advisor, and Guy will be hooding Henry. Next is Julius Von Wagin. His dissertation is On-the-Job Treating, Patient Response to a Shock in Primary Care Access at the Workplace. Guy David is his advisor, and Guy David and Mark Pauly will be hooding him. The next student is Shulamite Wang. Her dissertation is on the effect of market expansions on provider behavior in dentistry. Her advisor is Daniel Polsky, and Mark Pauly and Guy David will be hooding her. Next is Adam Levy. His dissertation is titled Essays in the Economics of Health, Risk, and Behavior. His advisors, Jonathan Kolstad, and Mark Pauly and Guy David will be hooding him. Next is Kyle Myers. His dissertation is 3 essays on the costs of inducing innovation. Matthew Grennan is his advisor, and Ashley Swanson and Matthew Grennan will be hooding Kyle. Next is Elena Prager. Her dissertation is titled Tiered Provider Networks in Health Insurance. Her advisor is Robert Town, and Mark Pauley and Guy David will be hooding Elena. And next we have Preeti Rao. Her dissertation is titled Hospital Response to Changes in Medicaid Reimbursement. Her advisor is Mark Pauley, and Mark Pauley will be hooding her. Next, we have Vikram Bhargava. His dissertation is Blame, Desert, and Termination. His advisors are Alan Strudler and Alexander Guerrero, and Diana Robertson will be hooding him. Next is Juho Lee. His dissertation is 3 essays on markets, hierarchies, and morality. His advisor is Thomas Donaldson, and Tom will be hooding him. Next is Shiva Agarwal. Her dissertation is 3 essays on the inter-firm interdependence and firm's performance. Her advisors are Rahul Kapoor and Harbir Singh, and Harbir will be hooding her. Next, we have Louise Biocera. His dissertation is Drivers and Consequences of Non-Market Decision-Making, Evidence from Global Corporate Disaster Giving. His advisor is Veet Hennish. Mike Useem will be hooding him. Next is Sydney Scott. Her dissertation title is The Nature of Natural. Paul Rosen and Deborah Small are her advisors, and Paul Rosen will be hooding her. Next, we have Fei Gao. His dissertation is called Omni-Channel Operations Management. Juanming Su is his advisor, and Juanming will be hooding him. Next, we have Jing Peng. His dissertation is titled Essays on Social Media and Digital Marketing. His advisors are Kartik Hosnagar and Christoph Vandenbolt, and Kartik and Christoph will both be hooding him. Next is Joseph J.Chi Shu. His dissertation is titled Empirical Studies in Online Retail Operations and Dynamic Pricing. Marshall Fisher is his advisor, and Juanming Su will be hooding him today. Next, we have Zhijuan Guo. His dissertation is titled Statistical Inference for High-Dimensional Linear Models. Tony Kai is his advisor, and Dylan Small and Zongming Ma will be hooding him. Next, we have Xin Yaoji. Her dissertation is titled Causal Inference Using Variation in Treatment Over Time. Her advisor is Dylan Small, and Dylan will be hooding her. Next, we have Yang Zhang. His dissertation is titled Topics in Statistical Inference for Treatment Effects. Dylan Small and Nancy Zhang are his advisors, and Dylan will be hooding him. It's almost over. Just a few more. Next, we have Tang Yuan Lang. His dissertation is titled Inference and Learning, Computational Difficulty and Efficiency. His advisors are Tony Kai and Alexander Rocklin, and Alexander will be hooding him. Next, we have Shuang Ma. His dissertation is titled Canonical Correlation Analysis and Network Data Modeling, Statistical and Computational Properties. His advisors are Dean Foster and Zongming Ma, and Zongming will be hooding him. Next, we have Daniel McCarthy. His dissertation is titled Customer-Based Corporate Valuation, Modeling with Missing Aggregated Data Summaries. His advisors are Eric Bradlow and Shane Jensen, and he will be hooded by Andreas Buya. Next, we have Samuel Pimento. His dissertation is titled Balancing Multiple Goals in Observational Study Design. His advisor is Paul Rosenbaum, and Dylan Small will be hooding him. And finally, we have Shin Newton. Her dissertation is titled Topics in Multivariate Statistics. Her advisors are Andreas Buya and Zhongming Ma, and both Andreas and Zhongming will be hooding her. That concludes the conferral of degrees. We have one last part of the official ceremony, which is a Wharton Doctoral program tradition, and that is for all of the graduates to come up, and we would like to take a group picture of all of you with Deputy Dean Mike Gibbons, Dean Garrett, and me. So if you can come up here on stage. Are all the students up? Thank you. This concludes our ceremony. Please proceed upstairs to the Kittner-Dietrich Galleries for our reception to celebrate your fellow graduates, your colleagues, friends, and family. Let us take one last opportunity to cheer for the graduates.